Welcome to the webinar. You have entered as an attendee in listen-only mode.
Welcome everyone. Sorry that we had some technical difficulties today with all of our systems. So unfortunately we couldn't join on time. So we will start our webinar today. I think Frank is there already. Are you?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so unfortunately we cannot see Frank on screen because of some strange issues with his computer, but we can hear him. So as we already know that our today's webinar is on the digital divide, the time to understand the opportunity. So we will have two speakers with us. First one will be Frank Jaffer, from Senko, and another speaker will be Raffael Joran, who is with us today as well. So I am giving just a bit of the introduction of those two speakers, and then hand over to Frank for having his first session. So about Frank Jaffer, after graduating from London Business School in 1989, Mr. Jaffer has played a key part of that global telecommunication community, beginning his career at Kingfisher International, then family business. So after that, Mr. Jaffer has co-founded Senko Advanced Components Asia Pacific in Melbourne, Australia in 1999, where he has since been managing director as well as senior vice president of global business development. And Mr. Jaffer was and part of founding board of directors of FTTH Council Asia Pacific, and more than 2 terms president plus 1 year global chairman of FCGA, which is our sister councils organization. So this is about Frank Jaffer. And about our second speaker, Raffael, the gentleman with us today as well. Raffael is an entrepreneurial minded professional with over 22 years of professional experience focused on business and project management, organizational strategy and operations. More than 90 years he has been within the telecommunication industry. He gained his expertise across the globe from different roles, functions and markets. While Raffael was based in Australia with Lucent Technologies and Alcatel-Lucent, now Nokia, he has actively engaged in whole Asia Pacific region. He was an active member of FTTH Council as well, as member of the board and committee chair for many years. So as founder of Concept for Change, Raffael is combining his expertise and deep understanding of the challenges of the communication industry with his passion for social entrepreneurship to create a foundation to foster positive change. So that's about our today's speakers. So I will now hand over to Fuad Frank Jaffer for having a few words about today's webinar, and then we will move on. Please welcome Fuad.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Sorry, I'm unable to connect with my face, but dear friends, colleagues, and guests, welcome to the webinar. This session was mainly sponsored by Senko, just to share some of our ideas in order to focus on the digital divide. It's very important task for every individual person to make sure we include everyone in the same pathway as developed countries and non-connected countries and connected countries. So as Rusafi mentioned to you earlier, I've been in the journey of the fiber since the 1980s. Came along later and joined the FTTH Council as a board founder member. And I have been actually, in fact, working with the Raffael's older organization as the founder members as well from very early stages. So being involved in Senko plays a major role globally in innovation of, let's say, passive components, connectors specifically, and that gives us the sort of a lead in terms of when you connect in the last most important point is a connector. If you have the wrong connector, your network is not going to work. So we take a lot of interest and very much focus all the way from the customer end all the way to the OEM, to the active manufacturer, the whole supply chain, and very much strong in terms of the standards, new standards, and how to work closely with the ecosystem in order to deliver a fast solution which is easy to install and easy to connect people. At the same time, also we have to be sensitive with the pricing and everything. So we kind of have a lot of good insights from all ecosystem in order to work towards a specific goal and achieving the final deliverables. Talking to Raffael many years, we always had these issues where we all work in the same industry, and we see where we develop something in terms of R&D, and then we're testing on the labs. By the time the goods go out in the field, it's a different story, different requirement, different weather conditions, and so forth. So being lucky in Australia, the governments do support in many respects a lot of R&D projects. And one thing to another led to the discussion with Raffael on the bigger scale, on the vision, which I won't tell his presentation, but he'll talk to you in more details. How can having something like concept of change actually is an enabler to the ecosystem. So in terms of FTTH Council is an enabler for lobbying, for more or less awareness of the benefit of the fiber and everything. But putting the entire ecosystem, individual company cannot do it because we all have to be also neutral in terms of vendors, right? Neutral vendors, and that's what we are. And we always, our mindset is always to work around helping our customer base, which is the whole entire ecosystem. So we found after 3 years of discussions, Raffael come up with something which is very, very difficult to achieve, but he has achieved it, and he took very fast traction. So I personally, in terms of Senko Australia for APAC, I took the incentive from our division to join and support his vision as well. And there we are here to share with all our friends, colleagues, and members something that we found is very interesting, and I do hope you find it interesting. And this is all about sharing and caring and taking a moral responsibility to connect the people that require the most of connectivity, especially what we're facing with COVID. And lots of remote areas don't have access to the health sector, diagnosis, all that kind of stuff. So the whole process of connecting people has become the very fast digital agenda for most governments globally. So finally, people are understanding the real benefit of the fiber. Almost every electrician you talk to or executive from a very big company you talk to, nothing to do with the telco, they do understand fiber and they do understand the speed, because a lot of ecosystem is kind of merging the AI, IoT, so all kind of different aspects for the business rely on the broadband, and the broadband enabler is basically fiber. So we need to see from a different mind point of view and look at the ecosystem in a wider scale, talk to a lot of the young engineers, more innovative people, how they're putting everything together, and that's where I think we fit in. And traditionally fiber to the home, Asia Pacific has been always the leadership team in terms of bringing new things to the global fiber to the home council like initiative. And I personally believe with my experience and being involved from day zero with fiber to the home council, this is the next level requirement for us to step up to the different level and enable and create opportunities for all our members, including Senko and all the other colleagues. So saying that, I will pass to Mr. Raffael now, and you can continue to zoom in into more details. Thank you for your time. And thank you for
Thank you.
Fiber to the Home Council.
Yeah, thank you, Frank, for the introduction and setting the stage about today's webinar. So I will now hand over to Raffael Joran. Please welcome Raffael for your session. I'm giving you the presenter option.
Thank you very much, Muzafi. Can you see my, oh no, I need to share. Okay, please let me know when you see my screen. Is that okay?
Yeah,
okay.
Okay.
So thank you very much to everyone to join today's webinar at the FTTH Council Asia Pacific. My name is Raffael Joran. I'm the founder of Concept for Change, as Muzafi and as Frank laid out. And first of all, I'd like to say thank you to the FTTH Council. It feels great to be back after my past engagement as a member of the board, as well as chairman of the membership and the technology and architecture committee of the council. And I'm very thankful to the council to give me the opportunity, and also very thankful to Senko for that opportunity to speak here today to you about the digital divide. So I'm happy to be here, and as we were running late in the beginning, I'll just dig in and give you a short overview of Concept for Change. Frank mentioned we are actually a very young organization. We are just founded 2 years ago, and the uptake is very great. We are a not-for-profit organization registered and accredited in Germany with a strong foundation and constitution in that area. The projects we do are basically project-based, but we do not see any boundaries. And the difficult part, what Frank mentioned as well during the founding of the organization, was actually that with that non-profit organization, we can act in different industries across the globe in multiple sectors. And that was the challenge we do, to be able to utilize synergies across the different industries and sectors in a single project or single activities. Concept for Change, we have actually 3 main pillars. The first one is, we call it Initiatives by Concept for Change, or special initiatives, where we run projects of any kind. One of them is related to the digital divide. Of course, as we are non-profit, we run social and charity project, which gives us a benefit of local engagement with communities as well as local governments. And we're doing fundraising events and activities as well to help sponsor and raise funds for certain projects. Concept for Change is managed or manages projects with experts and people who know what they're doing. So we don't believe that we can do everything by ourselves. So we get volunteers involved, we get trusted partner involved, experts from their fields and organizations who actually care and want to be part of it. So we create an ecosystem of organization and people for each project which matters and which make a change. As we are talking today about the digital divide, with Concept for Change, we are basically in 4 areas in the digital divide already active. We do an impact analysis. We do an analysis of challenges and mistakes during deployments. We're looking at the business case, and we're actually connecting an indigenous community. But I will talk to this a little bit later. We as Concept for Change, even we are young, we are already engaged in projects in different countries and regions. So we are heavily involved in several countries in Europe. We engaged in Australia. We had a project in India already, which we supported, and in Africa and the US as well. So you see, it's not just a point where we say we do something here. We are across the globe. We don't care about boundaries. We are active everywhere. So let's talk about the digital divide, because that's why we are here. And to start off, I looked in Wikipedia and to answer the question, what is the digital divide? And if you look at Wikipedia, it says basically the digital divide refers to a gap between those able to benefit from the internet and those who are not. And it is a very interesting statement, because I might refine it later on. but the internet seems to be the source of the digital divide. So to understand how large the digital divide is, let's have a look at the ITU publication, where they're mentioning some numbers, and this gives us the entire perspective what the digital divide is actually, or how big the digital divide are. And based on ITU, 4.1 billion people are using the internet, which is roughly 53.6% of the population. So saying this, it's just a little bit more than half of the population has internet, but that means the other half, or almost the other half, doesn't have. From 2018 to 2019, the number of people globally, worldwide, who had access to the internet increased by 5.3%. Is it good or is it bad? I mean, it's definitely going in the right direction because it means we're connecting people around the globe and the divide might get smaller. But if we look in the years before, from 2005 to 2019, we see that in the past, the uptake actually took about 10% per year of people who use the internet. This actually means from 2018 to 2019, the speed we are connecting around the globe people to have access to internet has decreased. It's only 5.3% and not as it was in the past 10%. So as you can see in the curve, it's slowing down. Why it's slowing down? The big projects are all running. The easy projects are completed most likely. So now it goes to the point to connect the difficult networks or do the difficult connection. And this takes more time, slows down. So just to recap that slide, to look a little bit at the numbers, the global population, as I looked it up, is 7.7 billion in 2019. I use the 2019 numbers because the ITU report is from 2019. This means 3.6 billion people are not using the internet. Looking into the region, because I got last week the question, so what is the breakdown of this gap? And in Asia Pacific, we have to say Asia Pacific is unfortunately below 50%. You see it on the fourth bar with 48.4%. Asia Pacific is the second last, or has a second most people who still need to be connected. A bit more than 50% of the population in Asia Pacific has not been connected to the internet or do not have internet access. Based on the ITU study, you see that it's mainly on the least developed countries where the challenges are, and because you have only 19% of the people connected in those areas, while if you go into the developed countries, you have 86.6% connected. To give you a global breakdown, ITU presented also a global map, and on the color code, you can see which areas have a big gap and which are not. But important is, even for example, if you look at China, which is a large country, you have in-country differences. So mainly in the capital city or in the big cities, internet connection is not a big deal, but as soon as you go into the rural area, it becomes also big deals there as well. Same thing happening in Australia or in India, in every country basically, even if you look at it in Europe or the US. Based on the world map, you see the biggest challenges we see in Africa, where only 28% of the people are actually connected or have connection. What I need to say to this ITU study, the networks here we're talking about is, or the numbers, is about connection to the internet. ITU doesn't make a difference in this study to mobile wireless or to fixed line access. For them, or for this report, it is about internet connection, but it shows how large or how big the digital divide actually is. Moving on to a first conclusion based on the numbers which we just saw and what ITU wrote. So connecting people is slowing down, we saw. We still have 3.6 billion people worldwide to connect, or 51.16% of the people in APEC. Most offline population lives in least development countries, and it's mainly and a lot in remote or rural areas. So this is actually a challenging opportunity. But we have to say it's still an opportunity because we need to connect. So on the positive, approximately 46% of the network still need to be built, but from a size, the networks which needs to be built are larger because the high dense populated areas are done, but we're now looking at the rural areas. So from a distance point of view, more fiber is needed to reach those locations. So larger networks needs to be built. But we know as well that there are negative sides. It's a difficult environment, it's rural, and the business case or return of investment does not really fly in all the cases. And that's a reason why it slows down as well. So I started in the beginning with the definition that the digital divide refers to the internet. But is it really the case? Because that sentence is actually in Wikipedia from 2002. So I start looking a bit around to see if I find something more recent, and on whatis.com there was another definition which actually came from 2014 and integrates not just the internet but also refers to modern information and communication technology like telephone, television, personal computers, and the internet. So over the years, the definition of the digital divide has changed. And if I continue reading now in Wikipedia, I come to another paragraph where they're actually talking about closing the digital divide. And here they're not talking only about the internet, they're talking about infrastructure, application services, as well as AI, robotics, and IoT. So for me, it's difficult to say, what does it mean actually? Is it just now the internet? Is it just a broadband connection? Or do we go now with everything what comes over the top or what we can use with it? If we connect now a rural area with this internet, does it mean is the digital divide closed or bridged? Or do they need to have AI applicable, or do they need to have a smart city or smart village to say that the digital divide is closed? So it gets a bit more tricky, but it also helps because it defines really what the digital divide is, and that's not just a broadband connection these days. So what is the reason for the digital divide? Usually in the past years, when I talk to people, to organizations, to governments, to operators, they're giving you one reason for the digital divide. And I collected a view now and just put them on one slide to show you it's really not just one reason which comes out. There are multiple reasons, and this is just a selection. One which always said it's a market failure because we have it, because the CSPs, communication service providers, they're just building in areas where you get a good return of investment and where you can fast build it and where you have a positive business case. But there are other reasons as well, and depending on which region you look at, which project you look, you see that sometimes the reason that there's not enough private investment in some areas. They say, yeah, the government is not supporting enough, and the regulations they put up are too challenging, we can't do it. Other areas, if you just think about looking at see in Rusafi, in Bangladesh, you have also water areas or flood areas where it might be challenging to deploy, or if you look at other areas in mountains, dragging a fiber cable through mountains or even wireless, it's always challenging. Talking about wireless, spectrum challenges come into the game as well. Lack of existing infrastructure is in particular in rural areas. If we look at Africa, I think India as well, a challenge because sometimes you don't even have power. An interesting argument is the investment priority, and this comes into the game when you talk to government, because they have to make the difficult decision: where do we invest, where do we support, what has priorities, building streets, clean water, or broadband, or building a power plant. So it's very tricky sometimes, and broadband, unfortunately, in the past fell behind in some of those situations. The local situation is always a reason. How do the local communities, cities, countries react, build what is available? But you see, there are many reasons. It's not usually one reason which caused the digital divide or which caused the late deployment of broadband. There are several reasons. So if we look at the ingredients to bridge the digital divide, we need to have a broadband. But I think we need to start these days looking at it from a different angle. We need to look first at the benefits. What are the benefits of a network? And these could be social economic benefits, which come to the community, like developing business and growing business. It can create new investment possibilities in the area. Sometimes investment can come up because a company uses a new location, which is new connected, to build a new factory or plant. It leads to market growth. It leads to development speed of the community where you deploy the broadband, and many, many more. But to get to the benefits, we all know we need broadband. But we don't see broadband anymore as an internet connection or data connection. We need to see broadband as a foundation. And the foundation is usually not going alone. So we're using new technologies and enabling the use of new technologies and new solutions. So it's not only a broadband, but we need to bring more to the table to make it interesting. A benefit, and I'm not sure if you know the word leapfrogging, it is used basically when you can skip technologies. And this is a real advantage to the rural areas or to the late runners actually, because they don't need to do the entire technology step. They can go straight away to 4G or 5G. They don't have to do 3G. They can go straight away to fiber. They don't have to do using DSL in between if they don't have it. Go straight to fiber and you have the best and the greatest in the beginning. And this is called leapfrogging, skipping basically technology steps. And you can see then the areas which are not connected yet, sometimes even like a greenfield solution. And in this solution, you have the advantage that you straight away build a great new technology foundation of broadband, which enables faster the benefits and the area to grow. So think a little bit different. Broadband as a foundation, and with the new technologies enabling the benefits, which are basically the selling factors or the reason why we need broadband in those areas. So what needs to be done? I mean, to actually utilize or enable an opportunity, you need to understand the reasons of the area, then simply add the ingredients and incorporate the advantage and the benefits in your statement, and you provide a solution, not just a network. That's too easy, too simple. So let's rethink it a little bit and talk a little bit more about how to develop and how the opportunity is actually structured. For that, I'm going a bit into the business model discussion, talking about the business model as we know it. And I think everyone we know it. Usually you have a communication service provider, CSP, who owns the projects and who owns the network. And if they want to build a new network, they're looking for investors or for government fundings, or they take their own money and they look at the regulations. So what government regulations bother me or help me or tell me what I can do actually. Then we're looking to advisors as a communication service provider. This could be, for example, the FTTH Council, and checking, okay, Council, what is the best and greatest thing. The council would say build fiber to the home, because fiber, as we all know, has no physical limitation, and this is the end goal. Do fiber straight away. Unfortunately, the communication service provider listens to consultants as well and to other advisors, so they got multiple messages. Then they decide what they want to build, and they write and send a tender out and ask passive, active telecom equipment vendors to bid for it, and cable works and construction needs to come in as well. And at the end, the communications service provider decides what they're going to do and what they're going to build. And that's how it is still today in many projects. But when we consider the change of the definition of the digital divide, we need to look at it from a different angle. And on the left side of the screen, you see some terms. I try to group it a little bit. So let's look at the current situation. We know that we have white spots everywhere around the globe. It is a challenging environment, and it's a very difficult business case, what we are facing. The needs, I just gave 3 examples. Connectivity, we need to improve healthcare, education, but we could go on. Smart cities, we want to have a smart government, and all the bits and pieces you are talking to. Looking in the market, the race is on for the 4th industrial revolution. No one wants to be last, everyone wants to be first. You hear 5G. 5G needs to be rolled out, and leapfrogging, because people want to have the newest technology right away. What's the talk? Everyone talks about smart city. I added as well smart village, because we don't need to look just at the big cities. We also need to look at the small villages and communities. So smart village is for me a key point as well. Even with small deployments, you have many of them, and this gives an interesting business case afterwards. Think about AI, IoT, robotics, over-the-top technologies which come on your network. It's all the talk about it. Additionally, what we all face at the moment, the impact of COVID-19. The population is still growing and getting older, which leads to different needs and different topics which needs to be covered. Urbanization is a critical point, because in larger cities, you have the connection, you have the benefit of broadband already. So people like to have it. You see more and more people moving into the cities. There you get then the issues on the small villages with farming and everything. So cities try to manage the urbanization, to manage the people. So it's a very high topic. I added refugees as well as an example, like in the European Union actually works or has funds available to support broadband deployments in Africa, because from Africa many people try to get into Europe, to come to Europe as refugees. So the European Union is trying to help the countries to set up a better infrastructure for them, to reduce the numbers who are actually trying to leave their own country. Looking at the governments, with all like COVID-19, the refugee challenges, the growing population, they want now to get broadband faster. They're changing actually the regulations in many countries to allow wholesale operator to grow, to build networks. And they're improving their digital agendas. Almost every government around the globe has a digital agenda. And just in 2020, so this year, we saw that those countries or governments actually increased the funding just because of COVID-19, and they saw the challenges as home working and home education. So these are the topics we need to keep in mind as well when we talk about the business case. But when we talk about it and look at it, the question is, who is actually leading it? Who are the stakeholders now we need to talk to? In the past, we had the ISP to talk to. And who will actually initiate the network build? Is it still the ISP, or is it somebody else? So looking at the new model, I mean, it's not new, it's just different. But these days we have in many areas a project initiator. This could be, for example, Concept for Change, but it could be also an investor. It could be a government. It could be a wholesale operator. It could be a construction company even, to initiate actually a project. But those initiator, they need to have a trusted partner. Trusted partner, of course, from the telecommunication industry, for example. And here the FTTH Council, for example, could be a trusted partner with advice, with its members who play an important role in that new project to be built. Other industries should be considered as well. I mean, we saw the effects on it, which is needed, what's helped. So we're talking healthcare, utilities, OTT companies, and more need to be in the loop as well. Government, development support, of course, in particular with digital divide, we're talking about rural areas, and we most likely seek for government to be involved as well. But we need to make it also interesting for investors to participate. So we need an interesting business case. To build the business case, we need to get the active, passive, and construction cable works companies, vendors involved as well. Otherwise, we don't know what our cost will be. But we need also to have local engagement. We need to understand the environment where we build. We need to have a wholesale operator who's managing actually the network afterwards. We need to have fixed agreement with ISPs to make sure we have service providers or internet service providers who actually do the offering with the end customer and managing content and everything. And we need research information to be able to bring it all together to make a project fly. So you see in this new different model, which works quite well in smaller areas or literally in every area, it is about a partnership. It is not about somebody makes a decision. It's a group of team, a consortium, which actually works together to build a new network. And guess what? In many of these situations, there's not even a tendering process happening because the partners agreeing to work together towards one common goal to build a network to connect an area, and they make it actually work for all of them. So jumping back shortly to Concept for Change, and I promised you that I mentioned the 4 projects which we are already launched in the digital divide. So we launched a broadband impact analysis where we look at the communities itself where broadband was deployed or will be deployed, and seeing what they believe to get from the broadband in the beginning, and what they at the end actually get. Did they fulfill the dreams with broadband? Did it help them, or did they get more challenges? So this is the first research. The other one is where we talked to operators who actually build in rural areas networks to understand their challenges and their mistakes, that we can build a report or research analysis to not do the same mistakes again or face the challenges from a different angle. Those 2 reports or research projects are actually the key foundation to rethink the business case, which is our 3rd project, where we redesign the business case to get the right players on it with the right aspects to make a business case for rural areas actually easier or workable. The 4th area, this is one of our key projects at the moment, which is connecting a rural indigenous community. So here we are involved with an operator and a vendor, and we as Concept for Change, we active participating in actually rolling out a broadband network to an indigenous community. So these are 4 key projects which are launching, more to come, and we are already very keen to see the results, and we are very proud on the partners we have already lined up to support us in those activities, which are not just out of the telecommunication industry, but also from the indigenous area and also from the entertainment sector already, because they want to use the upcoming broadbands to help the communities from their angle as well. So thank you to the partners here already. So Concept for Change partnership, just as an example, what it means. I mean, you can replace the FTTH Council with anyone. Concept for Change could be replaced as well, we hope not. So what does it mean in a partnership? And here we say we actually making an impact with that partnership. You saw it on the previous slide. We create value, we create a network, we bridging the digital divide, we support innovations because in some areas new technology needs to be invented to help actually facilitate those installation needed. With the communication of the project, the technology uptake will improve. And if I look now at the FTTH Council, you see it on the right, drive the next FCGA project. Just an idea from me, because with this setup, we actually could use the FCGA and all the councils to lead to a new project which actually has an impact, creates value to the members and to the people connected. Or let's just initiate a project together to connect some villages which are desperately in need of broadband. So to conclude, because time is running as we started late, and my apologies for rushing through the slide a bit faster than initially expected. We all know there is a digital divide. We saw the numbers. A bit less than 50% of the population is not connected, and this creates new opportunities. 46% of the population have no internet. This needs to change, and this is the opportunity. Let's close the white spots we have everywhere and build more networks. More networks means more projects for you guys and for everyone, and we will help the people in those communities and areas. We need to rethink our engagement model because the business case is challenging. A partner model is actually a very stable and good solution to define those projects. Together with Concepts for Change, we can reduce the digital divide. So let's go into a partnership, be part of a great team, make your CSR contribution count, or make an investment. And you know, if you do an investment in a project, there's usually a return. So let's join forces and build together. And with this, please accept my apologies that I rushed through the slides, but in the manner of time, I'd like to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity on behalf of Concept for Change to talk to you guys, to make you rethink the digital divide. And I hope that we can connect soon. And yeah, thank you very much. And I hand back to Muzafi. I think we have Q&A, or I'm not sure if Frank likes to say something as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Raffael.
you. Nice presentation. So I think, Frank, if you'd like to add something to this presentation, please, welcome.
Yeah, I just noticed one thing that we're seeing the trend recently in APAC is also the young people also in Australia is more moving to rural areas where there is connectivity. I'm talking from my experience in Australia. And they're finding the rental space is cheaper. They are more productive with the natural environment, more healthy, supporting the local community, and also the local governments or municipality, local governments, federal government. They put a lot of effort in a more of a not so remote area, but like 180 kilometers outside the city. So all of a sudden, in terms of Victoria, I can talk about here what I'm seeing is the pricing, the housing pricing is just boomed in areas where there is fiber connectivity and greenfield type of environment. And that's also is for the healthcare, elderly people, retirement villages and all that kind of stuff. So if we look at COVID, in fact, personal experience, it brings a lot of positive impact to lifestyle, to connectivity, and so forth. Being an essential business, it has definitely increased our business to almost 60 to 70% upwards. And that is because now people are respecting the broadband, people are respecting the fiber. That's how I see it. So in many terms, it's the projects are out there. It's just making sure ethically and responsibly, we need to sort of clarify which project as for the best for the humanity point of view in delivering those kind of things. So I think from Senko point of view, we always been in the back end supporting the FTTH Council. That's like a kind of our support globally for education, training, and all that kind of stuff, bringing new stuff. Is our corporate responsibility to share that with the community, with our industry community, and also engaging with education, with health, with all different aspects of the industry. But seeing also in the automotive and just beyond just the telecommunication industry, fiber is going everywhere. So I think we need to think long term, like Raffael mentioned earlier. The ecosystem is changing. The dynamics are changing. The new generation guys are thinking differently. It's always, yes, there is a bottom line, but there is beyond the bottom line. There is ethics and there is moral responsibility. So it's a good journey being with the council, I must admit, that kind of calibrate the industry as well. So from your corporate social responsibility projects, it's the angle that you should probably look at things and turn that into a positive impact for your company and for the community. It's a win-win situation. Karma always has a good feedback, right? A good return anyway. So there is a balancing act in there. So I think we all mature in the industry. I mean, most of the speakers, everyone is attending here, they understand the ecosystem of the world. So I think we need to engage more and more as someone we can be part. We are part of the history. We are going to be known in the history for what we're doing, and it's exciting times for everyone. And I would like to support the challenges, and that makes us more strong. And I think FTTH Council is a great platform for great people to meet a lifetime friendship, more like a family. And I think most of you understand that you've been members. And putting my different hat, I would like you to support more and join the FTTH Council, and let's go to the next journey and do something more exciting. It's going to be fun. I'm laughing here, but that honestly, I've seen a lot of things in 15 years that we deployed, and governments in certain countries in APAC, they're saying, "Yeah, you guys are pretty much way ahead of the vision of the government, of the policy writers, of the vendors." And here it is today. We're marking another historical moment. What we're talking today, I hope you can see back in 5 years, and you will see this is another mark for the next step. So I urge you to work closely with the council and all the members. We're all friends and like a family, and we can bring a positive change. We can bring an impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank, for your addition to the presentation. I think we will move to our Q&A session now. It will be on maybe 5 to 10 minutes. We have started getting some questions. Let's start the Q&A session. I will start by one of our colleagues' question. Mr. Raj, he's one of our board of directors. He has two questions. First one I'm reading out. China and India contributes close to 30% of the world population. How is the internet connection in those countries? I assume China is far ahead compared to India. Raffael, please.
I do not have the detailed numbers in my mind, to be honest, but yes, China is ahead of India in the contribution. If I look at the slide which I shared before from the ITU, where you see the different color settings, India is actually around 50 to 75% not connected to the internet, while when you look at China, there is only 25 to 50% not connected to the internet. So both countries still have a huge amount to connect, in particular if you look at the population in India and in China. But in India, the challenges are higher than in China to connect the rest of the population.
Okay. So his next question is, recently in UN, Indian Prime Minister mentioned to introduce fiber broadband in 600,000 villages. So this should help to bridge the digital divide in India, he thinks. And his question is, how much of an impact may this have to increase the internet connection in the future? Raffael, please.
I mean, if you connect all these villages, it will have a positive impact. Every fiber, every community which will be connected has a positive impact to the community. The question is to what level the impact will be. I mean, I'm talking now like 5-10 years back, we saw government projects, and I think one was the one in India, which was a government project to have one fiber to each community with a 2 megabit line. And if you consider now streaming, that line in the community in the village will not be able to stream, not even an advertisement these days. So it really depends what the project and the community does with it. I mean, if you have now a fiber to each community, sorry to say now on the FTTH Council, but if you have one fiber, you can provide Wi-Fi fixed wireless access to the community, and you can connect more people with that one fiber rather than just one building, which is directly connected like an internet cafe or something. Then it depends what equipment you use, what bandwidths you provide, what data rates you provide. But of course, every single connection can make a difference. And think about it from a healthcare sector. If you have only one connection to a village and you connect a healthcare center with it, you can share the knowledge of doctors and people with skills to help people in that village. So it's a two-kind response to that question. A, most important, yes, it will make an impact. B, it depends how to utilize the connection and what kind of connections you provide.
Yeah, great. Thanks for the answer. So our another colleague, Anil Pandey from India, he sent one question. His question is in terms of fiber deployment. So should applications be clubbed with fiber deployment to make it more commercially viable for the rural areas? And if so, which applications do you see could be the low-hanging fruit?
Well, that's I like you, Anil. You always ask the easy questions. So what are the low-hanging fruits? The low-hanging fruits are those areas to be connected where you have people with certain interests and certain needs. Because as soon as you have an interest and a need, you have the motivation to get it done. And here I can refer, for example, to a village in the UK. I don't have the name of the village, but if you Google the gigabit village in the UK, you get it. They actually wanted to have internet, and it's a small village, I think 200 houses, and nobody wanted to connect them. So there was a need because they wanted to have broadband, and now they have gigabit. How do they make it happen? They built the fiber network actually by themselves. The farmers digged the trenches. The community on a Saturday afternoon with coffee and tea did the splicing, and they connected to a backbone close by, just 5 kilometers away. And you see how desperate they wanted it, because everyone in that community put £2,500 on the table to be connected. If I go to other cities, say Australia, Singapore, nobody will pay £2,500 or $3,500 US to get a broadband connection. Everyone would say you're crazy, but they wanted it. So these are the low-hanging fruits that you look in areas where there's a motivation to support, and if you have the motivation, you get the right players into the game. To the other part of the question, what about fiber? fiber, we add the fiber to the home council. So fiber is always important. And you see in many rural areas that wireless solutions will be provided as well, or come into conclusion, because it is a faster, easier to build it. But have a look at the local situation. Not every time wireless makes sense. I mean, if you look at the Philippines, where you have lots of storms, having a tower is maybe not the best solution to provide a suitable network connection. But if you go then in other areas, it is viable, and maybe you do fixed wireless access to have better speed and better connection, and half a way or like a mixture of technology. Here, keep just in mind, bandwidth will increase, demand will increase, and behind every antenna, as we always say, there is a fiber. And if you go to the new technologies like automated driving, 5G is necessary. And those antennas are almost like fiber to the home. I mean, you will have many of them, and every single of them needs a fiber. So you can't pass by fiber regardless what solution you do. It will come sooner or later. It will go to that direction. Anil, I hope this answers your question.
Yes, I think so. So Anil, actually, before the question, he thanked for the lovely initiative you took with council. So, okay, just another comment Anil sent regarding that 600,000 of Indian villages connection. So he wrote that 250,000 villages have already been connected, and they are using it for telemedicine and farmers selling their products. So I think this is really impacting the industry.
It is an impact, and Anil, thank you very much for sharing it. It's highly appreciated.
Yeah. So, okay. Another question I got from Kiran from Senko, Australia. His question is, a partnership model with concept for change is really a great idea in filling the gaps of digitally divided communities. Could you please provide some more information on benefits in partnering with concept for change? Maybe some examples, if you can give.
If I would give examples, we would spend another hour on the phone. Let me put it this way. The sky is the limit, because the great thing on Concept for Change is that it's set up as a non-profit organization on a project-based setup. So if people or organizations join Concept for Change, we jointly define or can define new project and new initiatives, which will be focused on the benefit, on bringing and developing new benefits. In general, a partnership with Concept for Change creates visibility, because we talk about our project. We are socially engaged with the community. So we are not just visible like today on industry events. We are also locally visible and enjoying the local communities to show the partnerships we have in place. So PR is one point of view, but the more benefit is the impact actually we do with our projects. The impact we bring to people's lives. This is the real benefit of Concept for Change. We are an organization which brings in the experts together to join forces to change something in the world while we develop our projects. So it is not all CSR projects, as we can see. I mean, just from with the CSR, the indigenous community will not be possible. There's a business case behind it, and otherwise, I mean, you need so much money to build everywhere network and not pay for it. So it's a give and take in the environment, as Frank mentioned as well. So the benefits of joining a partnership with Concept for Change is driving change in the world, providing better lives to people while developing and building technology networks.
It's more of a strategic partnership rather than bottom line for the terms of sales management and bottom line kind of people. This is beyond that. This is a bigger picture. this is a responsibility from a corporate point of view. That's how I see it, right? To be involved in the whole entire ecosystem.
Okay, great. So Anil actually requested one thing from Raffael, if you could send some initiative details to him through his email. He can discuss more offline. So I'll send you his email address, the latest one, so that you can contact.
Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to speak to you, Anil.
So the most interesting question for today I got from our previous president, Arvind Mishra. His question is, digital divide definition keep changing between 0 to few hundreds kbps to mbps, now moving towards gbps. So is digital divide ever addressed? What is your opinion on that?
Never ever.
Yeah.
In a short nutshell, I mean, you see that the definition is changing, and in my personal view, we missed to bridge the digital divide completely when we started to develop technology faster. In the past, maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago, there would be a chance, because the cycles of technology updates were like still 5 years. Today we have in literally every year a new technology on the market. So the population is developing in the digital area faster and faster, and that just means the digital divide will not be closed. But it depends. I mean, if you look at the digital divide from the definition 2002, which just refers to internet connection, that would be something achievable in the future, that you can connect everyone. And I mean, just think about Elon Musk's projects to put 270, I think, satellites in the lower orbit to connect everyone through satellite. It's still a question if those communities have the money to buy a satellite connection or not. But even if you work with satellite, you need fibers to connect the satellite dishes on the bottom, on the ground, to control and to communicate. So there's fiber still in those solutions involved. But if you look at it purely from an internet point of view, yes, you will be able to close the digital divide to bridge it. If you look at the new definition, I think in 2-3 years you will have an update on the definition, and it will keep growing, but it gives us the motivation to concept for change, to build now the right foundation to make the upgrades later on faster and possible as well for those communities.
Yes, I think that answers the question. So from my side, I have 2 questions, because we are running out of time. So my first question about the FTTH deployment. So regarding the percentage of people not using the internet, we see actually APAC is always the leader in terms of FTTH deployment. But why is APAC actually second last when the global FTTH ranking shows countries in APAC usually on the top ranks? What is your opinion on that, Raffael, please?
That's a good question. Thank you. And I think this is a reporting point of view. I mean, if you look at the global ranking, which I remember is done by iDate, you look at the global ranking from an FTTH or FTTB point of view. And yes, you have countries like Japan, Korea, Singapore, which are very high in the ranking because they have a good fiber connection in the countries. But if you look at the ITU results, they're looking at not just at fiber, but also at wireless. So it's a different spectrum. But they're also looking, if you look at the APEC number, on the entire level of APEC. And then when you see what we discussed earlier, China and Asia and India are highly populated countries. China is somewhere between 25 and 50% missing on an internet connection, while India is actually between 50 and 75%. So these high populated countries change actually the percentage towards the countries which are already connected. And that makes a difference. So one is a different view on technology, and the global ranking looks at households and not at people, and it's the distribution over the entire countries.
Okay, good thoughts. So I have another question.
Sure.
Having in a business model so many players will only increase the cost, as everyone likes to make their profit. You know that. It will only be more expensive than the traditional model and not workable. Is it correct?
No, it's not correct. It's not right. I mean, yes, it can be, because if you think in a kitchen, many chefs cannot cook together. You need to have one chef to cook. But in this case, these business cases work differently. It is many organizations working together to a common goal, and they have an interest to make it happen. So if you go to the traditional business case where you have a CSP running the different projects all by themselves, yes, it would make it more expensive. That would be completely right. But in this new model, you're talking about a partnership agreement. So the partners, on one hand, going in to make it happen. You don't have a competitive environment where everyone will be forced to reduce the price because the CSP doesn't want to pay so much, or the organization. Everyone works together to a common goal and goes in with a different set of eyes on these opportunities. And only as a group you make it happen. So companies are even willing to do these projects for lower margins, but still lower margin means profit, right? And profit is what they are looking for their stakeholders. So yes, it seems to be more complex, but it's a partnership and not a competitive landscape. And because they're working towards a common goal, it actually works and makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, that gives the answer. So I think we have almost at the end of today's session. So I'd really like to thank two of our speakers today, Frank and Raffael, for your interesting sessions and for your time. And also I'd like to thank to all of the audiences who have connected us today. And with this, we will keep our FIBERTalk webinar keep running. Our next FIBERTalk webinar is on 1st of December. The topic would be work smarter, not harder when activating and maintaining GPON and GSPON network. So more will be shared with you shortly through the follow-up email, and also will be available to our websites and other social media sites. So thanks everyone again. I think with this, let's call it a day today. So thanks everyone again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rafi. Thank you, Rosafi. Thank you, everyone, for attending.